everybody. Welcome to All There Is. I'm your host, Kelly Bargabas. And I told you in the last episode that I was going to spend a few weeks talking about aging and growing older and reminiscing about life. And it's just kind of my current mood. It's where I'm at for whatever reason. I'm getting older. My parents are getting older. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with this last year and all that we've been confronted with COVID and our mortality and our family and things that threaten those things, right? So this week, I am going to share some thoughts about my family, specifically my childhood. And I have a couple of pieces I'm going to read to you. One is the raw poem that I wrote when I was really young. I was in my early 20s and going through a tough time. And I wrote this initial poem and I tried to revise it and rework it and make it sound a little more refined later on in my 30s. Both of these were written before I had really started to study and work on my craft of writing. So please, if you're a writer listening to this, don't judge my writing by today's essay. But the sentiment that I'm going to share is really deep within me, and I think it will resonate with people because I'm sure we all have times in our lives, especially if you had a decent childhood, where you reminisce and long for those days when life was simpler, right? And I'm no different. I grew up in a family of 5 children. I am the middle kid. So I have a brother and sister older and a brother and sister younger. And we were just we were a brood, a band, like we are a tribe. And when we were young, it was just the 5 of us and our parents, of course. So just the 7 of us. It was just us. I don't think anybody really prepares you for how that is going to change when you get older, you know? And in my generation, we got out of the house as soon as we could. It was just, I don't know, it was just an unspoken expectation. Let's just say that. You know, my parents didn't kick us out. My parents didn't give us an ultimatum. But it's like we were just raised with this unspoken expectation that you get out of high school, you go to college, and you move out on your own. And so that's what we did. And I know for me, I went away to college. I think after my freshman year, I came home that summer. And that was the last time I ever really lived at home. In my second year, my sophomore year of college, midway through, my sister and I got our own apartment, and I never lived at home again. And I know my brothers and sisters all did the same thing. We all left home really early. And there were different times in my life, it was when I was much older, that I really found myself longing for being back at my parents' house. And I've often spent some time wondering, you know, would my life have been different if I wasn't in such a rush to get out on my own, if I had given myself a little more time to grow up before I ventured out? Who knows, right? I think we knew as kids that we had something special, that we had a deep bond and a deep connection, because we saw adults around us and we saw adult siblings that didn't stay close and didn't talk to each other. And you know how life happens and resentment comes and bitterness and people stop talking to each other. And we made a commitment at a very young age. I think we were young teenagers, like maybe 12, 13. We made a commitment as brothers and sisters that we would never be like that. That no matter what happened, we would stay close, that we would love each other no matter how hard it got. Now, we made this commitment. We had no idea how hard it was really going to get, because it does, you know, and you know this, as you become adults and you marry and everybody starts to build their own families and has their own children, and then all the stuff, the heartbreak, sickness, divorce, jealousy, hurt. You know, you can't help but hurt each other. You hurt each other's feelings. You offend each other. You do things wrong. You screw up and you end up hurting the people that you love the most. And there's so many opportunities to shut down, to not speak to your family again. Like in a lot of ways, it would just be easier being a big family and to stay close in a big family. You really have to let a lot of things go. You just do. It has to be a discipline that you develop, and you have to choose, at the end of the day, you have to choose love and this connection that you have with each other above your own feelings, above your own hurts. You have to forgive. You have to move on, and it's not easy. It's hard AF, but it's a choice. And you do it and you move on. And there have been many times throughout our lives where we've had to remind each other of, hey, remember we said that we're not going to be like those people who let each other go. We're going to stay close, we're going to stay in it, and we're going to stay together. And there's been many times where different ones of us have had to remind the rest of the gang of this commitment and this promise that we made so long ago. And I think we've done a pretty good job of it. It's still, I don't know that it ever gets easier, but I think the more you do it, it becomes more of a discipline. And, I already know I'm probably going to get mad at my brothers and sisters again. I'm sure they're going to get mad at me. I think we do on the regular, but I already know I'm going to forgive them. Like, can't imagine anything that would happen that would cause me to move away from, to stop talking to one of my siblings. I just can't fathom it. So anyway, my family's important to me. I think you've got that by now. We had a great childhood. It was the time of our lives, and it's hard to not long for that, to not want that. And, that's what I'm going to share with you today. So here's the first piece. I wish we could find that place we used to go, where the sun was always shining and joy and love abounds. And in that place, we would be a happy family. We would laugh and run and play, and together we would always stay, each one of us so different, yet alike in so many ways. We know each other so well, yet not at all, it seems. The memories, there are so many. Ghosts in the hallway and underneath the beds, muscle men in the middle of the night giving some of us a fright, the butcher knife and pulling hair and hee-haw in Lawrence Welk on Saturday night. Camp Aldersgate and Driftwood, St. Hubert's on the lake. Such fun we had back then. Cross-country meets and Bible study and Sunday mornings, all of us on Mom and Dad's bed. The hours in the swimming pool, riding our bucking bronc, running barefoot in the grass and playing tag till dark. Kill-ball in the mud, ice skating on our pond, swinging on the vines. So many happy times. It's sad to know we used to be so happy, young, and free. We played, we laughed, we cried, yet I think we forgot to try and hold on to what we had. So if I could find this place where we could always be, safe and warm and full of love, I would never, ever leave. So I wrote that first one at a pretty tough time. I wrote that in the middle of it in our 20s. And man, I was serious. We were not in a good place as siblings. And, there was just a lot of stress. There was a lot of drama going on. And there was a lot of conflict, I guess. And it was distressing. I think it was distressing for all of us. And now, being so many years past that, I can look back now and see that it's all okay. We made it through. We survived it. We survived our 20s and we're still intact. We're still intact as a family unit. I think we're stronger than ever. We still love each other. And so reading this now, I do remember how I felt at that time and how sad I was and how upset I was, but I wish I could go back and just give myself a hug and tell her, it's going to be okay. You guys are going to make it through this. I don't think anybody really told us back then, or at least for me, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting how much growing up you still have to do in your 20s. I think your 20s are some of your roughest years that you have. Of course, now looking back with the perspective I have now, I still think that. I think your 20s are some of your toughest years. You've left home, you're trying to live on your own, but you really still have a lot of growing up to do. You make a lot of mistakes. You start to get in serious relationships that may or may not serve you well and may or may not be where you want to be. And you're finding a new path with your brothers and sisters, because where before it was just the 5 of you, and your parents, right? There were 7 of us, and we were the core group. Well, now you're branching out because you're all adults, and so you're getting married, having babies, you have significant others, you're living with people, and now you're introducing all this new dynamic into the family scene. And so there's bound to be, just introducing all those new adults, there's more stress. There's just a different dynamic. And then I revisited this same sentiment later in life. And you can see how when I wrote it, there's a little bit of a different slant to it. And here's the second piece. I wish I could find that place where the seasons never change and the summer days and nights of our childhood still remained. We ran and played from dawn till dark. The sun so warm, our tender skin burned red. Running barefoot on the grass till our feet turned black. Lightning bugs lit the night as we hunted bats and avoided bed. With yelling kids and barking dogs, the backyard chorus made a glorious sound. While the crickets sang their cheerful song, lawnmowers droned in the background. We had fresh-cut grass and flower beds, vegetable gardens and berries to eat. This fragrance followed us wherever we went. The air we breathed was heavy and sweet. We chased the clouds as they floated by. We chased each other. We laughed and cried. Childhood dreams were left behind as we grew up and said goodbye. I wish we stayed there longer. I think we left too soon. My mind is now the playground for the memories of our youth. So I feel like this one isn't quite so forlorn. It's still reminiscing about and yearning for a really happy childhood that was carefree and just full of sweet air and laughter and tears and childhood dreams. And like I said at the intro to this, I do think even looking back now at the age I'm at now, I think we were in too big of a hurry to leave it. And I don't know that we would change any of that now if we had the chance. But, like I said, in our generation, we just grew up and moved out. And I would love to just have had one more year in that house. Just one more year, living under my dad's roof with him protecting us, with my mom taking care of us, with my brothers and sisters sleeping in the rooms next to me. I'd give anything to just have had one more year, 2 more years before that all ended. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I am. And sorry about that, but I guess you can see how much I love my family, how special I think they all are. So it really was the time of our lives. Anyway, thanks for indulging me. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending your time listening to this episode. I hope it resonated for you. I hope it caused you to think about your family, whether you had brothers and sisters or you grew up surrounded by a gaggle of cousins, or if you created your own family. Whatever it is, I hope it caused you to think about some of those things. And next week, I am going to read a piece that I wrote to my younger self, my teenage 17-year-old self, about the world she was about to enter. And it's called All She Needs to Know. You can go to kellybargabus.com/podcast. In the meantime, if you need to, you can find old episodes out there. You can also find them on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. You can share, review, subscribe to this podcast if you'd like. And until we meet again, take care.